Money is something we use every day, yet know very little about. We give it to the grocers, the pharmacists, the banks, etc. A favorite economic fallacy that is spewed in mainstream circles is the following: money is not an item of supply and demand because it is the medium of exchange. Now, basic logic kicks in and says, if money is neither an item of supply or demand, how does it exist in the marketplace at all? Remember, there has to be a demand for something in order for it to exist in the market, so if there is a demand for an item, it is an item of demand. By default. Before we had a system of indirect exchange using money, we had the barter system. The barter system was simply, I'll trade you my horse for your cow. That's it. Of course, there were problems with this method of exchange, and so, as a result, indirect exchange was born because there was a demand for a better method of exchange. Eventually, money came to be used as the medium of exchange, and still continues to be used today. The fact that money came to be used was the result of demand, and as a continuing result of demand, money continues to be used today. It stands as thus, that if the demand for money disappeared, there would be no more money in the markets. The only conclusion that can be drawn from this is the fact that money is an item of demand, and if there is a demand for an item, there is a supply of an item in the markets. From there, it can be safely concluded that if there is a supply of an item, then the item in question is, beyond all reasonable doubts, an item of supply that must be accounted for within market transactions. Another way to look at this is from the perspective of a catalectic analysis. Just recently, I sold my iPod Classic to a friend of mine as a favor to him. We negotiated the price, and we agreed on $70. In the exchange, from my perspective, the iPod is the supply and my friend's $70 is the demand. From his perspective, the $70 is the supply, and my iPod is the item of his demand. A supporter of the mainstream position might say, no, from my friend's point of view, the iPod is the supply, and his demand for the iPod is the demand, but this is absurd. The iPod cannot be my friend's supply, simply because he doesn't own it. This is important because, you cannot say that something is your supply, unless you have some form of direct ownership of it. So if he has no supply, how can the exchange take place? In order for any type of transaction to take place, both parties must have something to trade. So if my friend doesn't have any supply, and I do, then how was the exchange made? It could not have been. If my friend has no supply, and I give him the iPod anyway, that is not exchange, because as the word exchange implies, I get something back for the item that I gave him. Me giving my friend something for nothing is exactly how it sounds. I am giving away an item for free, and thus, there is no exchange. To sum this up, whether or not money is the medium of exchange is completely irrelevant to the basic, undeniable fact that money is an item of both supply and demand, and to attempt to claim otherwise calls for your understanding of money to be questioned. The mainstream notion fails a basic analysis of exchange, it fails historically in the praxeological sense, and it utterly fails in the sense of basic market understanding. This position could have only gained popularity if next to nothing was understood about the way money works and its role within society. It's truly a shame that we have sunk so low that our college professors could make inexcusable mistakes like this, and not be held accountable for them.